Showtime.
It's
Showtime.
showtime.
Live. I don't know if we're live on Zoom, or you might have to do some pretty fancy lip reading because we were getting echoes and we had to turn off the volume in Zoom. But we're on Facebook. So
We're on
Facebook
Facebook.
Live page. And I am
Live.
here.
If you're in Zoom.
Go to Facebook. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I guess because if we mute, they won't be able to hear us. Hold on, let me unmute for 2 seconds. Okay, if you're on Zoom, go to my Facebook page because that's where you'll get audio and video. Go to Facebook, my Facebook page. All right, that's it. So here we are. I'm with my friend and colleague, longtime friend, 11, 12 years? 12?
Oh my goodness, yes.
I think.
Yeah.
The only way I know is that I get those little anniversary things on Facebook, or I get something like a memory, like, oh, here's you and Sue 12 years ago at Michael Ford, blah blah blah. So yeah, a dozen or so years.
I remember we were at the after party after the training when I was training the coaches because you were in that group. I was training you guys, and there was that little cocktail hour, and that's when you and I met. I remember that.
Right. Yeah. And it's so cool that we're all, like, a lot of us are still friends, like Thomas Mangum and Sarah Earl and just so many cool people. But today it's about you and the audience. And again, we're recording this, so no worries if you're not there live. And I wanted to talk to Sue. It's kind of interesting because the last few Thursdays, almost by accident, I've done things that aren't quite on brand for me, like not really video, but more broad topics about, trying to survive this year. I did this, anxiety thing with Catherine. I did this thing with Patty Lennon, and now Sue from Thrive for Success. We want to talk a little bit about basically not just surviving 2020, but getting kind of reset or finding our center for 2021.
Yeah. So
this is a good time to do it because we're towards the end of this crazy year. And earlier this week, Sue and I were just talking about things like, it's so easy to get off track and off center and feel off kilter this year with COVID and everything else that, how do you get your equilibrium back? Let's start with that question.
That's a great question. And this is a perfect time because I always do Thriving Thursday. And so sharing some of these tips. So I always love coming in on Thursdays. So it's really interesting for years, and Lou, you've been part of it. I have been working with people on getting back connected to what I like to call their innate operating system or their core compass. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 pieces to that are your core essences. And when you're in alignment, it's when you're living your best self. Mm. And so when we're out of alignment, usually when life happens or something happens in our business that makes us doubt ourselves or makes us lose focus or sometimes makes us just want to stay in our pajamas and in bed. And it's not just because we're on Zoom and we get to stay in our PJs all day.
Right.
And usually it's one of that piece of your innate operating system that's gone off kilter. And it's an easy shift back. And so what I have found is when I feel this disconnect, this off trackness, if I go back and start going, which is off kilter? Yeah. How do I feel? And usually if I'm off balance, then it's my anchor that's off balance. And then it's a quick shift as to, all right, what do I need to do in this moment to get back in line?
So you said there were 3 elements. I'm going to shut this door because Rocco's raising hell. Hang on a second.
I love your dog. My dog wanted to be part of this too. So yeah.
Of course, he's sleeping all morning, and then the minute I go live, he has to make his presence known. But what are the 3 elements then?
Yeah, so your core compass is made up your core essences. And the first one is your oxygen. And oftentimes that is connected to people's purpose. It's often connected also to what motivates you. I call it your oxygen or your fuel. It's your driver. It's that part of who you are that you need to really fuel in one way or another, really on a daily basis. Because if not, that's when you feel that lack of motivation. Have you ever felt disconnected from a project
Oh yeah.
or disconnected from a person, or just that feeling of suffocation, perhaps. Usually, then it's your oxygen that's not being fulfilled.
Wow. Does that ever manifest itself like physically? Like you get like there are times when I get anxious and I almost can't breathe.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And so usually, so I'll give an example. Years ago, I was working with someone who was getting ready for her 3-day event. And as we know, whenever we're trying to do a big project or anything, there's a lot of stress. And there's a lot of little tasks that have to happen. And her oxygen was creativity. And as you and I know, when we're finishing up all the little tasks, you as a creative person really know this, when you have to do all those little tasks that have nothing to do with creativity, and that's all you're doing, you're starting to feel like you're suffocating or a lack of motivation. And she's like, I don't even want to do this anymore. There was such a disconnect from what she had been so excited about. And we took a look at, well, how are you spending your days? And there was, for several weeks, there had been nothing creative going on.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's why. And so all we had to do is outsource some of those tasks and also just bring in some more creative elements for her, or look at the tasks in a creative way. And then the breathing started again.
Right.
So yeah, so it can feel like you're suffocating. It can feel some anxiety. People might feel a lack of motivation, just not know why, no passion. And they're just like, I'm just not, I don't know, that real feeling of weight on your shoulders is usually that something has gone off with your oxygen. You're just not being filled up anymore. And so, on the flip side, sorry, Lou, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you mentioned oxygen, anger, and what was the third one?
So there's the lens as well. So the lens is how you see the world. And it's how you show up in the world. It's kind of your filter. And so when you have a lack of clarity about your next steps, or you're not showing up in my paradigm is I believe everybody is born great. That something's off with your lens. That's when it really feels a fuzziness. Like, I just can't see that. I don't have that vision for myself. I can't see the next steps. I have 2 paths I need to go and I don't have clarity around it. Here's a cool thing. So when I do work with people to discover their core compass by figuring out these core essences, what we find out is there's a place where your oxygen and your lens like interact with each other. And that's usually what makes you unique.
Wow. Yeah.
Our dear friend Holly Chantal uses with many of her clients, and I've taken them through it over the years, and she's called it their superpower. So where those two interact is really how you can express your gifts in the world. And then your anchor is what grounds you. It's what gives you confidence to take action. It's when you feel fully grounded is when you feel like you're the most power and that you're confident. When you're off balance, maybe then you don't feel grounded. Maybe you're unsure. I know what I want to do. I can see it. I can see that vision, but I just don't know. I'm not confident to take the steps. Usually something's off with the anchor.
So I have to go back and show my age when Jimi Hendrix sang, I know what I want, I just don't know about how to go about getting it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what happens. People don't know how about getting it. Exactly. There's also another interesting phenomenon I often see is that people will hyperventilate, especially my creative people or my curious people. So oxygen makes us feel good. We need it to live. And when it's our driver, it motivates us. We're all excited. But we can hyperventilate, meaning that if creativity or curiosity is your oxygen, you could just do that all day long and feel good. But then your lens and your anchor, you're not getting anything done. It's just I'm happy.
Where'd that 4 hours go? But like, oh crap, I still out this
Yeah.
email. But when I
Yeah.
spend time like Infusionsoft and doing like admin stuff, I'm just, when you talk about oxygen, like I just,
Yeah,
I was
just
like,
as a feeler. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes it's that, or people that are givers they overgive. And so then they think, so here's the interesting thing about essences. So Lou, I have a question for you. And
yes.
and anybody that's watching, have you ever met someone and felt an immediate connection with them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You just feel that immediate alignment. And
Right.
then is there anybody in your life that you could say that no matter what, there seems to be an inability to communicate or to get along? Like you could say, "Oh my goodness, it's a beautiful day. The sky is blue," and they'd be like, "No, Lou, it's really teal or turquoise today. It's not blue." Have you ever had that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've even had clients where it's just like, what do you mean the red's not red enough?
Yeah. And usually what that is that your innate operating system is unique to you. I have thousands of people I've taken through, I have never had two people have the same core essences,
Mm-hmm.
not the three pairs. Some
Right.
overlap. So what I found is those that don't have core essences that line up with each other, that's
Mm-hmm.
that turquoise person.
Yeah.
It could be, sometimes it's a business partner, sometimes it's a spouse, sometimes it's an in-law, sometimes it's just somebody you work with.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have found, though, is when you understand each other's core essences, or even just understanding that people have different things that define who they are,
Mm-hmm.
allows you to talk differently to them. So maybe it's that you don't just say it's red, maybe it's that you talk in the language that is their language.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can hear that, oh yeah, you know what, it is red. So that's a huge thing. The benefits of knowing your core essence, or as business partners, or I work with spouses, or
Mm-hmm.
board of directors, or whole communities. It's a much better relationships and understanding. So not only understanding yourself, but understanding people that are close to you just
Mm-hmm.
changes the dynamic.
Yeah. So from a practical standpoint, what was the title of this? How to get back on track.
Yeah.
After a crazy year. I mean, I know so many folks, obviously, are just completely off track, off center, out of alignment. I mean, it's just like all bets are off, basically,
Yeah.
at this point. We've had COVID, we've had in the United States, we've had election, we've had social unrest. So if I say like, all right, what's the best way, or what are some practical ways for me to kind of find that center again? And, without just putting blinders on and shutting off the news for 3 months,
Yeah.
how do you?
Yeah. And understanding who you are at the core doesn't solve everything. What
Right.
it does solve is it helps you live your best self and be aligned with what makes you feel in flow.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about this is, and this is why when people have gone through the process, it's really living into them, is really understanding how you're getting impacted and putting it through the filters of either your oxygen lens or your anchor. So if you're feeling off, say off balance, usually, hi Denise, hey Mazzy, and look at all these people. This is really cool. If you're feeling off balance, generally it's because something's going on with your anchor. So for me, my anchor is fairness.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing fair about 2020. Nothing fair about 2020.
No.
And so what I always have to do is create that feelings of fairness for myself. So just understand that I'm going to feel off balance because there's things that are going on in this world that aren't fair. So what can I control? I'm a big one on what can I control, and then I let go of what I can't control. If you're feeling a lack of motivation, it's probably your oxygen. And then if you're feeling a lack of clarity, it's probably your lens. So it's always coming back to that. And the cool thing is you can get back on track in under an hour.
Really?
This process is not a long process. And I see that you put up the website for level 1. Yeah. So Yeah.
Tell me about this. Yeah, we had so much fun talking about this crazy year and how we all decided to get back on track. So yeah, I've been through the Core Essence process, and obviously it helped me very much in my branding. And we talked about the old story where I was like very serious and straight laced and all that, and then after I talked to her and went through Core Essences and found out that humor was a key core essence, I went out and bought the Moses costumes and did the 10 Commandments of online video online and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, some crazy like Trump thing that I did with my friend a couple weeks ago has 12,000 views on YouTube. And that's kind of like stepping out of like, I'm just going to do what feels natural to me,
Yeah. So it starts with, so there's a couple levels to it. The first level is understanding your core values, because your essences are a deep dive on your values.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting thing, and that's what is here, is the core values. It's under 20 minutes. So many people have gone through it and said, oh my goodness, this is so powerful. And it is. But what we know is that over our lifetime, our values change. And Lou, you were actually one of the people who also did this. Also, when people sometimes do the values, they pick values that they think they want to live into, or they think that should be important to them, or aspirational values. So ones they aspire to have. And that's kind of what you came in with. You had some values that were important to you, but your essences are deeper. They define who you are. Values change over your lifetime. Essences do not. And so that's why I call that your innate operating system.
Yeah.
And so I think you had things like family. Of course, your family is very important to you. You hear about them all the time. And so it's not that the values aren't important, but the deep dive. So level 1 is getting to creating your core values profile. Level 2, and this is what I'm giving to anybody that's watching this, if they want to go and it's free, you just fill it out and you can go through that first level of this process. And then the deep dive is the essences, and that's a one-on-one hour with me. And then really the third level is living into them. And so this is the big piece. And I do it with all my clients. I have several coaches that put this as part of their program, and it does with all their clients, because oftentimes doing this deep of a dive can take months. Like sometimes we uncover stuff that's been blocking people for years. Like the biggest one was 48 years of blocks.
Wow.
Yeah. 45 years. Sorry. 45 years of blocks for somebody.
Yeah. This would be a good thing to do, especially if you're going into any kind of rebranding or pivoting of your business, right?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah. Yes.
I love the sense of humor.
Yes. And you were hiding it. That was just such a killer. I still remember our session. Oh gosh, I don't know. That's 8 or 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so anytime you're doing a branding, anytime you're feeling like your business, so for business, it's very important personally, for relationships, but huge for business. If you want to know what marketing language is going to connect with your audience, I've had many people who have figured out that their business model is not the right one. It's not supporting their oxygen. And so they've made that shift for their business model. And oh my goodness, then the money started coming, the much happier. If you're unsure about your marketing messages, how to have it resonate, but certainly branding, like you talked about. Also, if you have a community of people, there's 2 benefits for those that lead a community.
Yeah.
One is that your people get to know who they are and can connect with other people in the community at a much deeper level.
Yeah.
You as the leader can also understand what I'm starting to find, having done multiple different people's communities, is that the core essences aren't the same, but they're alike. So there's almost like I won't say a category, but there's almost a set that certain communities have. That's because people navigate and gravitate to people that they feel comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, and that's really good because that helps you connect with your audience. And obviously, your audience is not going to have the same values as you all the time, but
No. And that's the greatest thing. And so a lot of people are confused how values and essences connect. Oftentimes
right.
we live into our values, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the essence that's the deep that drives that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and when we're off, I always say, and the other interesting thing, and it's really hard for people to discover these on their own because you just can't go deep enough. And you can't see the label. You've heard me say you can't see the label on your shirt when you're in your shirt. It's that, you just can't. We can't see ourselves as deeply, and we go deep. In 1 hour, we go deep in terms of uncovering these.
Right.
But
that's a great thing because you don't know, like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to spend, like 3 years with a shrink and 2 more years with the therapist and like an hour, boom.
An hour. Yeah. And people have shifted their entire life in an hour. And I know that sounds huge, and I feel a little humbled, to be honest with you, to say that, but I have shared those experiences with people, and just people who have said, my gosh, my whole childhood now makes sense, or why I felt I was wrong in corporate, that job that I had in corporate. It wasn't that I was wrong. It was that I was suffocating because it wasn't filling my oxygen up. And, I was in that job for 10 years, hated it for 10 years. And that just makes me sad that they took 10 years. But now they know why. It wasn't them. It was really the job wasn't supporting them.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So this is free. So you should check out the audio, right?
The audio is free.
By success.com/focus. And it's a really good exercise and a really good thing to go through, especially now we're at the end of the year, not this year, this 10-year year. And like I said, a lot of folks, I think, are just trying to figure out, all right, if this is the, I don't like the expression, but if this is the new normal, how do we, center ourselves and stay on track and try to avoid all the craziness and just like, hey, like you said, it's like there's a lot of distractions, but I still have a business to run. I can't afford to be completely off center and not know what my message is and not know what to offer my folks, Yeah.
Or here's another thing I just thought about, Lou. How many people are now living with people all day long that they weren't living with, they were living with them, but people left the house and now they're not. And if you have a better understanding of who you are and how you best operate, like what's your best self, because that's what this really does, let you operate as your best self. You can show up differently with the people around you. If both of you do it, then you can understand each other. It gives you great clarity. I know many people who've said, oh, I need to talk to my husband differently because I'm coming at it from my perspective.
Yes.
And that doesn't fly for him. I know my essences are very different than my husband's. And so we come at things very differently, but understanding that makes it help better. So so make your households.
Even if you're where would you apply it? Maybe if you're homeschooling, suddenly you have kids home, like in New York, they just send everybody home again. And so that's going to talk about throwing you off, right? Suddenly you've got 3 kids at home. Now.
Yeah. So understanding why that might throw you off is important. Understanding what your natural balance point is important. I love doing Core Essence with college students because it also helps them get centered before they pick their career path. It helps them get centered. But I know. I mean, it helps you realign with. Now, is it going to solve everything? No. But does it help you understand why you're getting triggered? Yes. So I get less triggered, much less triggered, because I understand when I'm about to be triggered, or I understand why, when I've been triggered. And so I can now shift back. By having that awareness and that understanding, it allows me to take steps rather than get mad or fly off the handle. Not that any of us ever do that. No, none of us ever do that at all.
Yeah. Well, my new trigger is we live near an airport. There are Air Force planes or jets coming in. Rocco thinks they're very large, noisy birds.
Oh no.
I see the plane. He sees me see the plane. He runs to the window. He freaks out, and all hell breaks loose. But that's
you being distracted. And you and your dog. I've never done it with a dog. I don't think I could do it with a dog. But that's you being distracted. So you have to figure out what's filling you up so you don't get distracted.
Right. One last question before we wrap up, because it's almost the bottom of the hour here. But,
oh wow, that was fast.
No, it's crazy fast. So I asked you earlier this week about the Myers-Briggs, and what's the other one? INFJ and DISC.
Oh, INFJ or Myers-Briggs, and there's DISC.
Yeah. Core essence is different, or I would argue better than those kinds of assessments.
So a couple of things. One, it is customized to you. So there's a structure and a paradigm, but it really is customized to you. I love Myers-Briggs. I love Strength Finders. It very much lines up. I use Strength Finders a lot. It very much lines up, gives you different information, but is very in line with Strength Finders. I now am also certified in everything DISC, and it very much lines up with everything DISC as well. So those are personality and behavioral. So this is more of a deep dive values. They're personality and behaviors, which your personality and behaviors are a reflection of your essences. Cool. So they're complementary, but they are somewhat standardized. And so they put you within a certain category.
Right.
Whereas
an INFJ or,
Right. So the core essences are very much customized to who you are. That's why the level 1, obviously you do on your own, but the level 2, the deep dive, is only done with me. I do that one-on-one. It's time that I spend with you. And then I do a follow-up with you to help you figure out how to implement, and I give you a personalized report. So it's not that it's automatic.
You don't have to do them in person, obviously. We didn't do ours in person.
Oh, no. In fact, interestingly, I rarely do them face-to-face. I don't even do them on video because I'm tapping into so much. There is structure, but as you know, it's very much an intuitive deep dive as well.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of channeled information that goes on there as well. Not to get too woo, but there is some there. So I do it with people around the world, Zoom without audio or phone.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we did our phone. Yeah.
Thoughts on check out thrive4success.com/focus to get the free audio, which is kind of the first step, right?
It is. It's level 1. It's the first step. I've also embedded, to make it a little more fun, I embedded a code in there.
Ooh.
Too. And so once you get the audio, you'll see on the page there is a place to send in the code word. Maybe there'll be some special stuff for those that send in that code word.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. And it's a different code word. So.
Again, we probably will have to do it again, because like after this year, I feel like I'm just completely off kilter. But it's so important to, kind of find your way, get on track, get grounded. Obviously, things are shifting all the time, but when you know that, it just helps you proceed with confidence, I think is probably how I'd put it.
Yeah. And I think what you were just talking about, not to go over time, Lou, is that once you know your core essence, it doesn't end there. You need to know how to implement them. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts that I have, that I work with my clients, is we implement them in every decision they make, every next step. So the whole thing about getting back on track is using your core essences. It's not just, this is not an exercise one and done.
Right.
It's really powerful, but the real juice really comes from then looking at them. Those that do the best, or those that they say, I look at it every day until it becomes, thanks, Denise, part of who I am. Like for me, I know that I need to be teaching. That's my oxygen. I know I need to be helping transform people. That's my lens. So I think so maybe we will chat. So for those that still feel off kilter, go through this, and then I'd be happy to take you through level 2 as well.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a simple way to get started, and it'll really help you kind of clear the cobwebs.
Yeah. If anybody has questions, we're going to be posting this, right? So if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Anybody that wasn't online,
so that we make sure people have a chance to see it. But thank you for being here live. If you were here live, we saw Denise. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so we'll also, just in case, how would people get in touch with you besides this link here?
So that takes me to my website, or if they want to email me directly, it's sue@thrive4success.com.
Awesome. All right. Great to see you as always.
You too.
Check this out, and we'll run it a few more times, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.